Guys, think back to when you were young. Maybe there was something you really wanted, and you saved up weeks, months of allowance just to be able to get it. For me personally, that was PlayStation 2. I saved up weeks and weeks of allowance. I mowed lawns, I babysat dogs, I tutored my younger brothers and other young kids, and when I was finally able to get PlayStation 2, I took hella good care of it, and I was just in love with it, and I never wanted it to go away. But there was this kid named Timmy next door. For him, his family was much richer, and he just said, "Dad, can you get me a PlayStation 2?" And he got it like that. And you're probably asking the question, what does your childhood story about PlayStation 2 have to do with League of Legends? Well, the NALCS players are Timmy. They are the spoiled rich kids. Previously, before modern esports, before all these VCs and sport teams came in and funded League of Legends teams and Overwatch teams, there were games like StarCraft and CSGO where players weren't paid that much and they had to grind much harder to become pro, but they still really enjoyed being pro and they really appreciated the whole aspect of playing video games for a living. For example, in StarCraft, you would have to play at an extremely high level for 2 to 3 years before even making it onto a team. And just because you made it onto a team, it wouldn't mean you step onto the stage either. You'd have to grind and make it to the top of the roster just to be able to play. Due to League of Legends being a constantly changing game, new talent can quickly come in and pick up the game extremely fast. Sure, League of Legends has depth to it, but not as much as something like CSGO or Super Smash Bros. Or StarCraft. It's more about adapting and it's more about learning the new game. Like every year the game becomes so different, so it's a lot easier for players to go pro. There's been cases of players that's never played the game to being pro within that year. League of Legends pros are very lucky in terms of the amount of time they have to spend to become a pro player compared to the other games and compared to the past. Since the LCS era, player salaries were guaranteed for League of Legends pros, and salaries have just kept going up and up, almost doubling each year. Nowadays, for any new players coming into LCS for the very first time, they're gonna make about 100,000 their first year. 100,000. I'm not even joking. The combination of the short time it takes to become a League of Legends pro and the extremely high salary have made League of Legends players probably the most spoiled demographic out of all esport players.
How many are there?
36. Counted them myself.
36? But last year I had 37!
But players aren't the only ones to blame. Actually, the majority of the blame is on the team and the system. So let's try to figure out why. During the LCS era, before franchising, teams were deathly scared of losing their spot. If they got relegated, it means millions and millions of dollars invested into the team would be gone just like that. A lot of teams imported high-level Korean or European players into their teams because these imports would give them a boost in power level and they could not get relegated. But often enough, these imports would be highly toxic, difficult, selfish, and just hard to work with. But teams had no choice but to bend down to their will, because if they don't, they would get relegated, and it was better to be a toxic team than not to be a team at all. And this trickled down onto the NA players. The underlying message was, if you're good enough, we'll deal with your bullshit. Just be good enough and we'll deal with that. This still has lasting negative effects to this day, and it's why so many NA LCS teams are dysfunctional and they have a lot of toxicity or team environment problems. So why isn't this the problem in Korea? They also had relegations. Korea has high level of trainees just wanting to become pro, like ready to take spot sub, older or more spoiled or difficult players. For example, in 2014, when Samsung won Worlds, China came in and bought out all 10 of Samsung White and Samsung Blue's players. And Korea was still able to replace them very easily, and they took a decisive victory once again in the 2015 World Championships. That's just not the case in North America. We have nowhere near this amount of talent, and we don't have the same kind of luxury of benching or replacing our top players. Or we didn't. There is one example of an NA team that weren't afraid to do all that, and that's Cloud9. They were the only team that weren't really reliant on their old guards, and they would replace them whenever they felt like they were no longer driven or they were problematic. This year, They even benched their star players and put in players from the academy team. Sure, they were struggling, but that really sent the message. And yeah, Jack laid down the law. We're not going to deal with any kind of bullshit. If you're not here to be focused, if you're not here to put the team first, if you're not here to work hard and try hard every single day, then you don't deserve a starting spot. And look what that has done for C9. Sneaky and Jensen are playing as well as ever, and they got to incorporate a lot of their rookie talents such as Licorice, Zazel, Blabber. This kind of system would have never worked if Jack wasn't willing to take the risk of short-term deficit for long-term gain. Now in the future, any player acting up on Cloud9 will know my spot isn't guaranteed and I can't just be a brat or not practice. Their culture has been set and their standard has been set. I think it's something all other 9 franchises can look to and learn from. Lastly, if there's any head of esports for a League of Legends team or any kind of esport team watching this, I have no idea why you're on my channel, but here's my message to you. There's no longer relegations. If your player is being difficult, toxic, hard to work with in any capacity, punish them. Let them know that kind of shit isn't gonna fly. You should support your players, but you should point out negative behavior and have consequences and not feel afraid of fan backlash or losing your spot in relegations, because 1, relegation isn't there, and 2, fan backlash is a real thing, but you have to look long term. That's what franchising is for. You have to allow NA culture to get better, and that starts with punishing players when they act up or they just aren't willing to try hard and aren't appreciative of their spot and they're being spoiled rich brats. Take the action. You're the ones with power. It's not the players.
Beat his ass.
With franchising, you're no longer in survival mode. You're in driving mode. And after all, whenever there is a spoiled rich kid, it's not the fault of the kid. It's the fault of the parents that enable them to be that way. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a little bit different from my usual videos, but it was a message I really wanted to convey, and a lot of it comes from my personal experience with coaching players, running a challenger team, and also just being in the scene and hearing other coaches or other people and teams talk about their player behavior. And it isn't to say all NA players are problematic, but we definitely are the most spoiled region out of all the 4 major regions, and even including the wildcards. And we have all this money. It's about time we change and actually start delivering results internationally. So yeah, thank you guys for sitting with me and enjoying the video. Like, subscribe, and comment. Turn on the notifications. And I usually try to comment back to any kind of interesting comment. If you talk about like, oh Loco, you have a list. Oh Loco, you got fired, blah blah blah. Like, I really can't have a conversation with you. So if you have comments that you want to talk to me about, comment down below and we'll talk. Thanks to Pro Guys for editing this video. And one last thing, you know what's coming. I'm not crazy, I'm just Loco. Bye!